Hey everybody, welcome back to the Comic Wall. It's your girl, the Outcast Angel, and today let's talk about issue 4 of Robert Kirkman's newest series, Die, Die, Die. And I know I don't even remember when I posted it, just a couple of days ago, a day ago, or whatever, I posted issue 3. I'm sorry, my schedule just got so whacked out, well, so out of whack after that because of the the pushback on issue 3, since they ended up, I don't know, they had some kind of misprint, so they had to push it back for the next week. And so, that kind of just threw me off. And by the time I got the issue, I had a whole bunch of other things going on, so I didn't get to really make the video for that one until recently. Anyway, this issue was intense. It was just whoa. And honestly, I'm really enjoying this series. And spoiler alert, I did get a letter printed in this issue finally. And I mentioned how I need to stop having this idea that I think I'm gonna know what's gonna happen, because then once I start reading, it's obviously very wrong and it just makes no sense. So yeah, just whenever you go into this book, keep an open mind because some crazy shit's gonna happen. Anyway, starting off, we get some more background on Senator Connie Lipschitz. And so it goes into it saying Connie Lipschitz was once told, "You'll live many lives in your lifetime." She didn't realize, in her case at least, how literal that statement would prove to be. Looking back, there are times in her life she doesn't even recognize herself. Sad times, best forgotten. Happy times she can't remember, no matter how hard she tries. And I like this first panel where she's sitting. She has a baby, I think, and possibly a husband or a boyfriend, but like she looks so cute there. And now she's in a fighting ring here, and now she's furry. So I'm not bashing on furries, but like this kind of thing is just a little weird, you know. Anyway, in order to grow as a person, you need to learn from your mistakes, and Connie has had untold lessons that have turned her into the brilliant, resourceful person she is, and she couldn't be more ashamed of herself. Her self-hatred eventually bled into disgust in the world around her, and those feelings intensified with age. So she fought tooth and nail, getting more than her hands dirty, to be elected to the United States Senate. There she fights tirelessly through legislation, compromise, cooperation, blackmail, and murder to make the world a better place. Because for her, the alternative is giving up, so she can die, die, die. And again, another awesome title sequence that I don't know if they're gonna keep this up. I really don't, because if this is gonna be an ongoing series, which I have no idea how, but then again, it's Robert Kirkman, so I have no idea how. I feel like after issue 6 or after the first story arc, it would probably get a little old or something for them. For me, I love it personally. I don't know. As a writer, you kind of have to like throw some curveballs in there, you know. So going into it, we jump back to Jennifer and George. After Jennifer has figured out that George is not Paul, her boyfriend, and you know what? First off, I didn't. How rude of me! I didn't even get to gush about this cover. Look at this cover, guys! Like, holy crap! I know you're gonna see it up here anyway, but just geez, like you see all the carnage, the broken, the busted knuckles and everything, and then George and the katana here. But not only that, again, this issue had alternate covers with alternate speech bubbles. Of what I can remember, one was mine is bigger, and this one that I bought, of course, because this one was funnier to me, and it's George saying, "Hold it a little lower. I want to make sure there's nothing in my teeth." It was just I had to throw that in there, and it's just whew. Anyway, so right away they start fighting. George and Jennifer are pretty equally matched. And in this one panel, you see George jump over a table and land a few feet away. And when that happened, in my well, not in my mind, I was sitting at school reading this, and it like audibly I went. And so several people looked at me. They were like, "What?" It was just hilarious. And then we get this awesome spread of their fight together, and it's just crazy. There's punches. There's probably broken bones. There's glass shattering. There's broken furniture. Hopefully this isn't an apartment because they're gonna have to get their security deposit back. Anyway, we see Jennifer and George still fighting it out, and at one point, George is saying that, I never saw what Paul saw in you. Now though, I always thought you were kind of boring, but now though, I'm honestly rapidly developing a thing for you. And he says, "Do you think you could ever forgive me for killing your boyfriend?" And that's when she gets distracted by saying, "He's dead," and gets kicked in the face. And so, while George is standing there gloating, she does a backflip from her. First off, from her hands and knees, she does a backflip. I don't even know how that's possible. And she's obviously angry by this revelation, and so she tries using that in her advantage against George, which George even says, I've heard people claim that anger does improve fighting ability, but honestly, I feel like it makes you sloppy. And as he says that, Jennifer lunges at him, but he pulls the freaking katana back and lets it go like a stupid little spring and slaps it in her face. And that was just dirty. I do not appreciate that at all. Anyway, as Jennifer's laying there unconscious, George is kind of just like, "You will be mine." And that's what he says. And then he ends up calling his butler, Martin, saying that, I need you to come. You have my permission to take the jet. Okay, calm down. Just hold up. Now this scene was weird and disgusting, but I honestly love it for some weird reason. And so we see Nate walking up to the Capitol building, and we see these kids that are on some kind of field trip, and one of these kids is being a bit of a dick. He's saying, "Your parents don't have any money. That's why Mr. Brooks had to pay for you to come on this field trip. You should have stayed home while your family still has a home." Ugh, like kid, I would. It's kids like this that made me think that I wouldn't mind hitting one, but that's not me. Anyway, Nate walks by. He leans in real close to this kid and says, "Rhubarb pie," and then this kid starts shitting himself uncontrollably, and it looks painful and disgusting, and I'm not gonna show it because it just looks disgusting. I don't know, maybe I'll show like a bit of it, but it's so bad. And so he can't stop. He keeps shitting himself, and Nate is just walking up to the Capitol building just with this pardon the pun, shit-eating grin on his face. And just anyway, he walks into Connie's office, which is still dark and windowless. Anyway, he's talking about how the Sesame Street brown trigger is still working, that he had no idea. And Connie says, "Oh yeah, it works even bigger now. They plugged it into the app. All these kids are on tablets. Hits a much wider audience too. Excuse me. You don't even have to. Excuse me. You don't even have to be watching. Just." I have a hiccup, excuse me. Just within earshot of someone else watching. I used that on Senator Garcia last week. Explosive. Anyway, Chris Dingus of Manifest Destiny, if you're watching this, this is your perfect chance to use diarrhea. So, anyway, we see that George or Paul is back. He's all cleaned up. His nose is healed. His scars from whatever fight he had with Jennifer are healed, and Nate is honestly pretty surprised. And honestly, I would think they're a pretty cute bromance going on, but I still don't appreciate George. So it turns out Connie has another mission for them. This man, what's his name? This man, Gerardo Gonzalez, major drug trafficker who operates from a stronghold in the Brazilian rainforest. They've managed to locate his stronghold that he never leaves. Apparently, some of his inner circle became a little more cooperative after he crossed a few lines. Anyway, so yeah, they end up getting set for the mission. They're flying on one of these stealth bombers. I was told from my boyfriend, and they're getting ready to make a parachute jump, and Paul or George is obviously very nervous, and Nate notices this, saying, You're never this nervous before a jump," and so George. He ends up saying, "Man, your time off has really got you out of whack. Don't get me killed down there." And then we see Nate like ready to go, and George back there just like, ugh, like, ugh. I'm a little more animated today for some reason. I don't know. And so we see them drop in, and on this barbed wire covered wall, or razor wire for to be correct, someone throws a snare around one of the guards' neck and pulls him down into the barbed wire. And I'm not going to show that just because it's a little too brutal. If you guys want to see this, buy the book. Really, it's really worth it. Anyway, Nate is still starting to notice how Paul is a lot slower than usual, and good God, they use the guy's body, still kicking body, to climb over the razor wire. Jeez. Anyway, as George, I'm just gonna call him George, as George is trying to figure out where the villa is, where Gonzalez is supposed to be, he almost gets his nose cut off again, instead of getting the tips of his hair cut off, and he manages to kill the guard who was trying to kill him. Anyway, as they're making their way to the villa, they actually see Gonzalez with a woman who doesn't really look like she wants to be there, and two very twin-like bodyguards. Anyway, so Gonzalez is trying to get busy with this woman who is obviously very scared, and George comes in and sticks a knife in his head, and that was quick for one thing, and the woman gets scared, causing the bodyguards to run after George and Nate. Nate right away shoots one of them in the head, and then George is left to fight off this other guy, and Jesus, he's a freaking tank. Anyway, Nate is stuck under this other guy while George is still trying to fend off this other guy. And he's like, "Shit, what do they feed you guys? Lead? It's just bricks of lead, right?" And he's like, "I'm coming." And then he whispers in the guy's ear, "Pastel de rhubarbo." And bodyguard number 2 starts shitting himself again. Or not again, but he starts shitting himself, and he already has like several stab wounds in his back. Excuse that was weird. He already has several stab wounds in his back, and now he's shitting the life out of himself. Like, jeez. Anyway, Nate says Sesame Street is fucking global, No, yeah, pretty much. Anyway, they make it to the harbor, where this woman says, "Paul, it's me, it's Mary," but George is pointing his gun at her, and Nate's like, isn't that your contact, you dipshit?" And so Nate stays behind to set some charges, and they all ride off on one of the motorboats, and the harbor explodes in a giant explosion. And so one thing that I noticed here is that the contact says, you have done a good thing here today. And George says, "That's what we do." And Nate's just like, "What?" And Lily is deep asleep, so she's snoring like crazy. And I'm starting to notice that I think Paul wasn't ever happy with his job. He had to do what he had to do, you know? But George is kind of, I guess, putting too much into it or trying too hard, you know? Anyway, now we see Jennifer back in her apartment, all tied up with Martin, George's butler, excuse me, serving her soup through a glass or whatever. Excuse me. Ugh, Jesus. I drink so much water is the thing, so I keep getting hiccups so that my voice doesn't, like, give out. Anyway, we see George talking on the phone saying how this isn't going well. The girlfriend found me out immediately, so now I have a woman tied up in her apartment. It's not a long-term solution, and that I'm not killing her. I like her. Shut up. And so he says, let me remind you, I don't work for you. This is a business transaction. Aside from our deal, I'll do what I fucking want. I also think Nate suspects me, but that's no big deal. Him I can kill. Uh-oh. Anyway, we see that he's actually talking to Senator Barnaby. I finally figured out his name. And, Barnaby. He is surrounded by naked women who are tending to him hand and feet. Anyway, he ends up saying, I think this partnership is going to be endlessly fruitful for both of us. Your second form of compensation is about to be paid in full. And so he ends up hanging up and grabbing another phone saying, mission is go. And we see this helicopter full of mercenaries dropping in on Brother John in his forest hideaway. And he's skinning a deer, and I wish I could go hunting again. I really want to go hunting. And obviously he's a little frustrated by this. He just says, fuck. So obviously he's in trouble. But, I mean, we've seen what he can do, so is he really in trouble? Anyway, that's the end of this issue, and as I said at the beginning, I did get a letter in this issue, finally. So I start off with, hey guys, so yeah, this issue was more fucked up than last issue, for sure. Seriously? Y'all had me thinking one thing with this issue, and every time I'm thinking, okay, this is happening, y'all come in and say, no, this is happening. I'm very concerned about the second brother, who cuts off his own nose. And Sean Mackiewicz, the editor of the series, says, just shows you why George remains a cut above the competition. Ha, nice. And what about that trick with the katana in this issue? Well, I already told you what I thought of that, Sean. I like how you called it deschnozzization, Chris. You better keep that. I can't wait to see where we go from here. See ya. And Robert Kirkman replies, thanks for writing in, Andy. Hey, if you think things are crazy now, just wait until the spaceships show up. Pfft, spaceships? I'm still flipping out over people cutting off their own noses. Anyway, that's the end of this issue and this video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys liked it. And if you did, drop a like, show the love, hit that subscribe button to get more of my videos, ring the bell to get notifications on when I post new videos, so that way you guys stay updated and don't miss out. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.